Got a bunch more, I think.
Can people please take their seats? I need people to take their seats, please.
It's more the notion, right?
Yeah, but I'm keeping in mind just leader of this.
It's gonna be public, so everyone
Yeah, but
get
it's
on the
mostly
second
government.
part.
I know. I think.
Public, so, oh my God.
Yeah, I know, but I meant,
Because having done this for so long, I struggle, and to me it's so obvious, and when people don't,
Look,
because
we're
people say, oh, you want
dealing
government
with this.
partners to give credible messages.
Yeah, but we're dealing with this on a daily basis in some of the stuff that we do, and it is extremely difficult for the government to do anything. They have to create. They tell you we need to create a partnership.
Yeah, I think
Before you even start.
just a matter
with
of
all
time,
this.
but
This
yeah,
is
they'll-
from the government. I'm talking State Department and FBI especially, not necessarily DHS. It makes you feel better. We can cancel it. I mean, we can
Just
delete
that
it.
clause, just saying
Elaine, you found a plug?
to say that credible
I see. I know where you're coming from.
is the wrong message.
I
I'm looking for one
agree
all
where you're coming
afternoon.
from. But I think it's also important. It's also, not what's the term I'm looking for? Wisdom.
We thought we'd take the vote and let you
Something wisdom.
No.
Thank you very much. My brain is dead. It's also conventional wisdom that the government is.
Please take your seats. We're ready to proceed.
Like Mike's.
I think that all of you will note that Secretary Johnson has joined us. We are going to follow through with the protocol that we need to do. We can have 5 minutes of questions, and then we are going, Judge Webster will start the voting and deliberation.
This is on any one of the reports. Good, you had a good discussion beforehand. Maybe we don't have any questions.
Are there no more public comments? Okay, then I will formally close the public comment period. Thank you, members of the public. I am now going to turn it over to Judge Webster.
All right, thank you, Sarah. First, we welcome the Secretary, and we'll hear from him shortly. We will now proceed to the conclusions of what we've been hearing during the past several hours. I want to thank all the chairs of the subcommittees and all the task forces for really excellent work on each of the Secretary's taskings and for presenting the Council with outstanding reports. As a reminder, the CBP Integrity Advisory Panel, as was stated earlier, provided a status report and does not have a recommendation at this time. So they'll be withholding a public conference, they'll be holding a public conference call in late June, and so we'll hear from them at that time. Now, as we begin the voting, I've been asked to remind you that those who are here as proxy members for an actual member are pleased not to vote on these issues. The first report is from the DHS Grant Review Task Force. This time I'd like to ask the council members, we've asked if you have any additional questions, so I assume we can pass over that. In the absence of any more discussion, is there a motion to accept the recommendations from the DHS Grant Review Task Force? Do I hear a motion? There's a motion. And moved and seconded. At this time, those in favor of approving the recommendations, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. I don't hear any. Therefore, the motion is approved, and for the record, it was unanimous. Thank you again to our task force chairs, Bill Livingsgood and Michael Masters, for your leadership and the task force's good work. The second report is from the DHS Employee Task Force, renamed, as you know. At this time, I'd like to ask the council members if they have any additional questions beyond those that were previously discussed. Hearing none, Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the DHS Employee Task Force?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's very good. There are no nays, so the recommendation is approved unanimously. Thanks again to the task force. They did a first-rate job. Norm Augustine may not be on the phone now, but I will thank him anyway for a superb job, along with Lydia Thomas, for your leadership and good work. The third report is from the Foreign Fighter Task Force. And this time, I'll ask the council members if they have any final questions. I think we had full discussion, but if there are any, I'll entertain one. Hearing none. If there's no more discussion, is there a motion to accept the recommendations from the Foreign Fighter Task Force?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second.
Excuse me, just one quick question. This is an interim report. Will we be getting another report then with further recommendations or
Yes.
refined recommendations? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. At this time, all those in favor of approving the recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Good. That's unanimous again. So the recommendation is approved, and these will be put in final form for submission to the Secretary. For the record, we don't need, there are no counts to do here. Thanks again to the task force chairs, Ali Soufan and Paul Goldenberg. There's a lot of work involved here, and we appreciate it. So, Mr. Secretary, on behalf of the council, we welcome you and thank you for joining us today. We've had a very busy and productive day, and we look forward to hearing from you. And I'll turn it over to you to introduce our new department leadership and swear in your council members.
Thank you very much, Judge. Before I provide my comments, I do want to acknowledge and administer the oath to our new advisory committee members. This will be a first for me. I have never administered an oath over a VTC. I hope that it is legally acceptable and valid. One of our lawyers will give me a legal opinion on that. But I see Chairman Norris there. So would the new members of the advisory committee please rise? And raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Ned Norris, Jr.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies,
all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
that I take this obligation freely,
And I take this obligation
Obligation
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
and that I will well and faithfully
And I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
on which I am about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Congratulations. This job pays extremely well. Lots of benefits. The benefit is an opportunity to serve the nation and to serve and support the Department of Homeland Security. Before we close out the public session, let me just say a couple of things. We remain focused in the department on our various Homeland Security missions. They include, of course, counterterrorism, enforcement and administration of our immigration laws, border security, maritime security, aviation security, port security, cyber security. Cyber security is, as I've said many times, a big personal priority of mine. The protection of our national leadership through the Secret Service, the response to disasters, including natural disasters, oversight, and the shepherding in of reforms for the United States Secret Service, and our numerous other missions. We face right now the prospect that Congress does not act to repeal sequestration. I expect to be very vocal about that in my public statements, public remarks about the impact to Homeland Security if Congress fails to repeal sequestration. We've had to live through some lean budget years. This year's budget, this year's appropriation for FY15 that we are living under now is a good budget. It took Congress until March 3rd, unfortunately, to pass it for us, but we are now living with a good appropriation, and the President's budget request for FY16 is also a good and strong one, which, as you may have seen from our Appropriations Subcommittee hearings, received a pretty good reception on both sides of the aisle in Congress. But we are now living with the prospect of failure to repeal sequestration, which is not a good thing. And so those of you who are on our advisory committee, we are happy to work with you to more fully acquaint you with the impact of sequestration, so that you have that in on your own mind and your own talking points. As I said at the Wilson Center earlier this year, management reform is my top New Year's resolution. I am very pleased that we have achieved a number of things on the management reform front, including filling all the vacancies that previously existed in our department. And so, in addition to Sarah Morgenthau, who you've already met, who is a new addition to our team, I also want to call out two other people. One is Brody Cotilia, who is over there. She is functionally our number 2 person in policy. Brody was a special assistant of mine at the Department of Defense, so we have a history and a track record there. Brody is, to embarrass her, super smart, super capable, Yale degree from, a law degree from Yale Law School, a PhD from Harvard. Her academic credentials are almost as impressive as Jane Harmon's. And she's a naval reservist on top of all of that, and she's now joined us to work in policy. Last but not least, our new Undersecretary for Management, Russ Dio, who was confirmed just a few weeks ago by a Senate vote of 95-2. Puts all the rest of us to shame. Russ has waited. Russ was extraordinarily patient through the vetting process and the Senate confirmation process, but he's finally here. Russ and I also have a history. We were attorney-client at one point. Russ was the one of the executive VPs at my client, Johnson & Johnson. He was VP for administration and then general counsel. He retired from Johnson & Johnson about 7-8 years ago, and agreed to come back to full-time work and to come back to serving his country. He was an assistant U.S. attorney, much younger in life, and so it's a real credit to Russ that he has relocated from New Jersey. He's relocated from retirement to come help us in DHS and support our missions on the management front. So I wanted you to meet all three of these terrific new people we have on our staff, as well as a number of others who've been hired lately around the department to show you, I think, a lot of good things we're doing and the terrific people we're doing it with. So I will look forward to reading the reports that have been submitted by the advisory committee. I'm sorry I was not here for the earlier discussions. I was at a cabinet meeting that ran over a little bit. So thank you all for being here, and thank you all for your service to our department and to our country.
Thank you very much, Secretary. And all of us express our appreciation to you during those troubled times of ensuring that dedicated public servants in the Department of Homeland Security did not cease to be on the payroll and provide for the future. I hope we can help in any way that we can to deal with the sequester issue or any other matters of that kind. We appreciate that very much. At this time, we want to thank the members of the public who were participating here. Members of the public, a few announcements. Members of the public who would like to provide additional public comments on the Homeland Security Advisory Council may do so by writing to Homeland Security Advisory Council, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Washington, D.C., 20528. You can also email us at hsac@dhs.gov. HSAC information and meeting minutes may be found at www.dhs.gov/HSAC in caps. And so after a long but fruitful day, the open session is now closed and the meeting is adjourned at 20 minutes after 4. Thank you very much. There's going to be a reception afterwards, I understand, and we're going to hear anything more that you have to say to us. So we'll excuse the members of the public at this time.
You could say it was my fault.
Have you been?
Thank you. I mean, they asked you to chair this good gig.
Yeah, I would think that was.
It's a weird looking print.
Yes, but it said now closed.
Too bureaucratic.
No, it's just, it's, trying to correct 10 years of.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was a little on the odd
You've
side,
been
but you know,
private sector experience.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
others haven't had. Thank you, Meg. Why don't you sit up here? Talking of.
probably we'll let you go.
Leg room. My legs are like.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I
Me and
know.
Gary